You know, one of the biggest mistakes we make when we talk about confidence is this: we try to build confidence on top of self rejection. We try to improve ourselves before accepting ourselves. And that's like trying to build a house on a shaky foundation. No matter how beautiful it looks, it won't stand for long. Confidence doesn't begin with changing yourself. It begins with embracing yourself. You cannot hate yourself into becoming someone you love. You cannot look in the mirror, criticize what you see, and expect your spirit to rise. True confidence begins when you stop fighting who you are and start appreciating the person staring back at you. Let's be honest, every one of us has flaws, imperfections, and insecurities. Maybe you think your voice isn't strong enough, or your body isn't perfect, or your past isn't something to be proud of. Maybe you compare yourself to others who seem smarter, prettier, more successful, or more confident. And the more you compare, the more you shrink inside. But here's the truth: you are comparing your behind the scenes with someone else's highlight reel. You're seeing their best day and comparing it to your worst. And that is unfair to you. Self-acceptance is not about giving up on growth. It's about creating a peaceful space within you where growth can actually happen. Think of it like planting a seed. You don't shout at the seed for being small. You water it, nurture it, give it sunlight, and you wait patiently for it to grow. Confidence works exactly like that. You can't demand confidence from yourself through harshness. You have to nurture it through kindness. In 2025, the world around us moves so fast that it's easy to forget this. Every day we see people glowing up, leveling up, transforming, and while growth is beautiful, the hidden danger is when we start believing that we must earn our worth through transformation. You are not valuable because you've achieved something. You are valuable because you exist. You don't have to become someone else to deserve love, respect, or confidence. You are enough as you are, even as you're growing, even as you're learning, even as you're healing. When you begin to accept yourself, something magical happens. The noise in your head begins to quiet down. You stop comparing so much. You stop apologizing for being you. You stop needing validation from others to feel good. You start to stand tall, not because you've changed into someone new, but because you finally allowed yourself to be. And that's where self-improvement truly starts to flourish. Because only when you accept yourself can you clearly see what you genuinely want to change. Not out of shame, but out of love. You stop trying to fix yourself to please others and start improving yourself to honor who you are. There's a big difference between I need to change because I'm not good enough and I want to grow because I deserve better. One comes from fear, the other comes from love. When you look at confident people, they all have one thing in common. They've made peace with themselves. They're not flawless. They're not perfect. But they're comfortable in their own skin. They know their strengths and weaknesses, and they carry both with grace. They walk into a room not thinking, am I enough? But knowing, I am who I am, and that's enough. That's real confidence. Let me share something that many people overlook. Confidence isn't loud. It's not about being the most talkative person in the room or having the flashiest presence. Real confidence is quiet. It's the calm assurance that says, I don't need to prove myself to anyone. And you can only reach that calmness when you've accepted yourself fully. But here's the challenge: self acceptance takes courage. It's not easy to face the parts of yourself you've been running from. It takes strength to look at your flaws and say, yes, this is me, and I still choose to love myself. It takes patience to stop chasing perfection and start embracing progress. But that courage, that patience, that's what builds the foundation of lasting confidence. Sometimes people confuse self-acceptance with complacency. They think, if I accept myself, won't I stop improving? No. Acceptance is not the end of growth, it's the beginning. You can't truly change what you don't first accept. Acceptance doesn't mean you stay where you are. It means you start from where you are, without guilt or shame holding you back. Think of a child learning to walk. When they fall, you don't yell at them for not walking perfectly. You encourage them, you smile, you say, come on, try again. You accept that falling is part of learning. That's how we should treat ourselves as adults. We fall, we fail, we stumble, and instead of criticizing ourselves, we should say, it's okay, I'm learning. That's the language of self-acceptance. In the journey of building confidence, remember this simple truth: confidence is not about changing who you are to fit in. It's about embracing who you are so fully that you no longer need to. It's about standing in your truth with grace. It's about owning your story, not the edited version, but the real one with all its ups and downs. So as we move through this year, I want you to make a quiet promise to yourself to stop fighting your reflection, to stop apologizing for being imperfect, and to start seeing yourself as someone worthy of love, success, and respect right now, not someday in the future. Because confidence is not built in front of the mirror, it's built behind it, in the way you talk to yourself, the way you treat yourself, the way you forgive yourself. And once you truly accept yourself, no one and nothing can take that confidence away from you. You are not behind, you are not broken, you are becoming. And the first step in becoming confident is to simply accept who you already are. That little voice inside your head, the one that keeps whispering, you're not good enough, you'll embarrass yourself, you can't do it. That voice has probably stopped you more times than failure ever has. We all have it. It's called the inner critic. And for most of us, it speaks louder than the voice of encouragement. You see, before the world ever doubts us, we've already doubted ourselves 100 times. The battle of confidence doesn't start on the outside, it begins in the mind. Our inner critic is born from years of conditioning. Things people said to us, mistakes we made, moments when we felt unworthy. Maybe as a child someone laughed at your ideas. Maybe a teacher told you you weren't smart enough. Or maybe you've been comparing yourself to others for so long that you've started to believe you'll never measure up. Those words, those moments, they settle in the subconscious and slowly become that constant voice in your head. It tells you to stay quiet when you should speak, to play small when you should shine, to hesitate when you should act. But here's a truth we often forget: your mind listens to everything you tell it. Every thought is like a seed. If you constantly plant words of doubt, you'll grow a forest of insecurity. But if you plant words of belief, you'll grow strength, courage, and confidence. The challenge is we often let the wrong voice lead. We feed the critic and starve the encourager. Imagine for a moment that your mind is like a stage. On one side stands your inner critic, negative, loud, and dramatic. On the other stands your inner coach, gentle, supportive, wise. The critic says, "You'll fail." The coach says, "You've learned from failure before." The critic says, "You're not ready." The coach says, "You'll never be ready if you don't start." The question is, which voice are you giving the microphone to? Silencing the inner critic doesn't mean pretending it doesn't exist. It means learning to talk back. When your mind says, "You can't," answer with, "Why not?" When it says, "You'll look foolish," remind yourself, everyone starts somewhere. Confidence doesn't mean you'll never hear that negative voice again. It means you'll recognize it and choose not to believe it. You see, the mind is like a computer. It only operates based on the programming it receives. If your inner voice has been programmed with doubt for years, it will naturally resist change. But the moment you start feeding it new beliefs, new thoughts, and new affirmations, the system begins to rewire itself. Scientists call this neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form new connections. In simple words, your thoughts literally shape your brain. So, if you keep telling yourself, "I am capable, I am worthy, I am enough," your mind begins to adjust, slowly replacing the old self-doubt with new self-belief. Let's be real, silencing the critic is not an overnight task. Some days, that voice will be louder than ever. It will show up when you're about to take a risk, speak up, or step into something new. That's when you have to pause and ask yourself, whose voice is this? Is it mine, or is it the echo of someone else's doubt? Most of the time, that inner critic isn't even your real voice. It's borrowed from people who didn't see your potential. Don't let their limited vision become your lifelong belief. There's a simple but powerful technique I love. Name your inner critic. Give it a funny name, like Naggy Nancy or Doubtful Dan. It sounds silly, but it helps you create distance between you and it. When that voice starts whispering negativity, you can smile and say, there you are again, Dan. Thank you for your concern, but I've got this." Humor disarms fear. Detachment gives you control. The more you do it, the weaker that voice becomes. Confidence grows not when you eliminate fear, but when you learn to act despite it. Every time you challenge the inner critic and take one step forward anyway, you weaken its power. You show yourself evidence that the voice was wrong. That's how belief grows, through action. Think about it. How many opportunities have you missed because of that voice? How many times did you say no to something you wanted to do because you feared judgment, failure, or rejection? Every no you gave to your dreams was actually a yes to your inner critic. But here's the beauty of life. You can change that today. Every time you choose courage over criticism, you rewrite your story. You don't have to wait for the inner critic to disappear before you start. In fact, the more you take action, the quieter it becomes. That's because action builds evidence, and evidence builds confidence. When you do the thing your critic said you couldn't, it loses credibility. Slowly, The balance shifts, the encourager grows stronger, and the critic fades into the background. Another powerful shift happens when you start observing your thoughts instead of absorbing them. You are not your thoughts, you are the awareness behind them. Thoughts will come and go, some supportive, some harsh, but you get to choose which ones you believe. When a thought says, I can't, you can step back and say, that's just a thought, not a fact. That tiny pause, that awareness, gives you freedom. It's also important to remember that even confident people have an inner critic. The difference is they don't let it control their actions. They hear the voice, smile at it, and move forward anyway. Confidence is not the absence of self-doubt, it's the mastery of it. So, start paying attention to your inner dialogue. Every morning, notice the first few thoughts that come to your mind. Are they empowering or discouraging? When you catch yourself being harsh, reframe it. Instead of saying, I'm terrible at this, say, I'm still learning. Instead of, I'll fail again, say, I've learned from every failure. Talk to yourself like you would to a dear friend, with compassion, patience, and belief. Remember, your inner critic only has as much power as you give it. You don't have to silence it completely. You just need to make sure your voice of encouragement speaks louder, because at the end of the day, confidence doesn't come from the absence of doubt. It comes from believing in yourself more than you doubt yourself. When that voice inside tries to pull you down, look in the mirror and remind yourself, I am not the voice of fear. I am the one who decides. And when you learn to quiet that critic and nurture that inner coach, that's when true confidence begins to grow, steady and unshakable from the inside out. Confidence doesn't arrive in a single moment of magic. It doesn't suddenly appear one morning when you wake up. It is built quietly, slowly through consistent small wins that prove to your mind that you are capable. Most people wait for a big achievement to feel confident. A major promotion, public recognition, or success that makes everyone clap for them. But real confidence is built in the small, silent victories that no one sees. It's in showing up every day, even when you don't feel ready. It's in doing what you said you would do, even when it's uncomfortable. We live in a world where everything happens fast. We see instant results, instant likes, instant success stories. And in this fast-paced life, we forget the power of small steps. We think confidence will come only when we reach the big goal. But that's not true. Confidence grows because of the small goals, the micro victories that slowly train your mind to believe, I can do this. Think of it like building a muscle. You don't walk into the gym once and walk out strong. You lift small weights again and again until your muscles adapt. In the same way, confidence grows through repetition. Each time you complete something small, making your bed, speaking up in a meeting, finishing a workout, or even saying no when you need to, your mind registers a simple but powerful message. I follow through. I can trust myself. That trust is the seed of confidence. The problem is that we often overlook our small wins. We only notice our big failures. You might complete 10 good tasks in a day, but focus only on the one you didn't finish. You might make progress for weeks, but one bad day convinces you that you've gone nowhere. Our minds are trained to amplify what went wrong instead of celebrating what went right. That's why so many people lose confidence, not because they failed, but because they stopped recognizing their growth. When you start setting micro goals, realistic, achievable actions, you begin to create momentum. It could be something as simple as reading 10 pages of a book, drinking enough water, or speaking kindly to yourself for one whole day. These may sound too small to matter, but they build discipline, and discipline builds confidence. Why? Because every time you keep a promise to yourself, you send your brain a signal that you are reliable. You become your own source of trust. And once you trust yourself, the fear of judgment starts to fade. You stop looking for confidence in others' opinions because you already know what you're capable of. You no longer need someone to tell you that you're good enough. Your actions already prove it. There's something deeply empowering about this process, the quiet satisfaction of growth. When you track your micro goals, you can literally see your progress. Maybe last week you couldn't speak up in front of 5 people, but this week you did. Maybe last month you hesitated to start a new project, but today you took the first step. These may seem small, but over time they transform how you view yourself. You stop seeing yourself as someone who hesitates, and you begin to see yourself as someone who takes action. The mind is like a record keeper. It stores every memory, every pattern, every experience. When you keep breaking promises to yourself, it remembers. It whispers, "You said you'd do this last time too, and you didn't." But when you consistently complete your small goals, it remembers that as well. It says, "You did it before, you can do it again." That's why self-trust is so powerful. Confidence is not about believing you'll never fail. It's about believing that even if you fail, you'll still keep going. Celebration plays a big part in this. Most people wait until they achieve something big to celebrate. But what if you celebrated progress instead of perfection? Every small win is worth acknowledging. It doesn't mean you're settling, it means you're strengthening your spirit. When you celebrate progress, you tell your mind that effort matters, not just the outcome. That keeps you motivated. It keeps you moving forward when the results are slow to appear. Think of the great achievers in life: athletes, artists, leaders. They didn't wake up confident, they built it through repetition, through the discipline of small habits. A runner gains confidence not on race day, but during the hundreds of early mornings when they ran quietly, unseen, preparing. A musician gains confidence not on stage, but during hours of practice when no one was listening. The same applies to life. The confidence you show in public is born from the consistency you build in private. There's another reason why micro goals are so powerful. They reduce overwhelm. When your dream feels too big, your mind feels paralyzed, you start thinking it's impossible, and you stop before you even begin. But when you break that dream into small, actionable steps, it suddenly feels manageable. Want to write a book? Start with 1 page a day. Want to start a business? Begin by researching your idea for 15 minutes daily. Each small action builds momentum, and momentum builds confidence. Over time, you'll notice something beautiful. Your self-doubt begins to shrink. Not because the fear disappeared, but because your evidence grew stronger. You have proof now. You've done it before. You know what you're capable of. That's how confidence grows, not through wishing or waiting, but through evidence. And remember, progress is not always linear. Some days you'll move fast, other days slow. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, and other days you'll doubt everything. That's normal. What matters is that you keep showing up. Consistency is more important than intensity. A small step every day will always beat a big step once in a while. So, at the end of each day, take a moment to reflect. Ask yourself, what did I do today that I'm proud of? It could be the smallest thing. Maybe you handled a situation calmly. Maybe you spoke up. Maybe you didn't give up. Write it down. Keep a record of your small wins. Over time, that list becomes your evidence of growth, your personal source of confidence. Confidence doesn't come from perfection, it comes from progress. Every small goal you achieve, every little promise you keep, builds a foundation so strong that no failure can shake it. So stop waiting for the big moment to feel proud of yourself. The truth is, those small steps you're taking, those quiet, invisible acts of persistence, they are the very moments that shape the most confident version of you. The way you dress is not just about fashion, it's about energy, mindset, and how you choose to show up for yourself. Many people underestimate the power of presentation, thinking that confidence comes only from within. Yes, true confidence begins in the mind, but the outer expression of it reinforces what you feel inside. The way you dress is like a silent conversation you have with yourself before you step into the world. It says, I respect myself. I care about who I am ready to take on the day. You see, our appearance affects how we think, how we behave, and even how others respond to us. Imagine wearing clothes that make you feel powerful, comfortable, and put together. The moment you look in the mirror, your posture changes. You stand taller, you smile a little more, and your energy feels elevated. It's not vanity, it's psychology. How we present ourselves affects our self-image, and our self-image shapes our confidence. Let's take a simple example. On days when you wake up feeling low, notice how you often reach for clothes that reflect that mood. Loose, dull, maybe wrinkled. But if on the same day you decide to dress up a little, comb your hair, wear a nice color, and look your best, something shifts. You feel slightly better. The mind begins to respond to that small act of self-respect. Your outer effort influences your inner state. That's why the saying goes, dress the way you want to feel. Because how you dress can actually create that feeling. It's not about expensive clothes or designer brands. Confidence has nothing to do with labels. It's about alignment. It's about wearing what makes you feel strong, comfortable, and authentic. A confident person doesn't dress to impress others, they dress to express themselves. When your appearance reflects your personality, when your style tells the truth of who you are, you carry yourself with ease. You're not trying to be someone else. You're simply honoring yourself. The way you dress also sets the tone for how others treat you. We teach people how to see us. If you show up carelessly, the world assumes you don't care. But if you show up prepared, neat, and intentional, people notice. They subconsciously perceive you as someone who values themselves. And when you value yourself, others begin to value you too. This isn't about ego, it's about energy. When you put effort into your presentation, you communicate without words. I matter. Think about people you admire, leaders, speakers, artists, or professionals. They may have different styles, but one thing is common: they are intentional with how they present themselves. Their clothing, their posture, their grooming, it all reflects respect for who they are and the message they carry. That's the secret. Dressing isn't just for appearance, it's for alignment between your inner worth and your outer expression. Sometimes people say, I'll dress well when I feel confident. But it works the other way around too. You can feel confident when you dress well. That small external change can trigger an internal shift. There's a psychological concept called enclothed cognition, which means that what you wear influences your psychological processes. If you wear clothes that make you feel capable, your brain begins to act accordingly. When you wear something that symbolizes strength, your actions and attitude align with that image. For example, a woman wearing a blazer to a meeting often feels more assertive and professional because that outfit represents authority and readiness. A person wearing athletic clothes might feel more motivated to move, even if they weren't planning to exercise. The outfit becomes a cue for behavior. So when you dress the way you want to feel, confident, strong, capable, your body and mind naturally follow that direction. However, there's a delicate balance. Dressing for confidence doesn't mean hiding behind an image or trying to meet others' expectations. It's not about perfection, it's about authenticity. You don't need to wear what's trendy or what others approve of. You need to wear what aligns with your energy and your truth. The goal is not to impress but to express. Confidence grows when your outer appearance and inner essence are in harmony. For women especially, the world often tries to define confidence through appearance, as if beauty equals worth. But confidence is not about conforming to society's version of attractiveness. It's about embracing your individuality. If you feel powerful in a sari, wear it. If jeans and a t-shirt make you feel unstoppable, that's your style. The key is to choose clothes that reflect your strength, not your insecurity. When you wear something because it empowers you, not because you're afraid of judgment, you radiate natural confidence. It's also important to remember that self-presentation goes beyond clothing. It's in your posture, your smile, your eye contact, your handshake. These are all extensions of how you feel inside. A confident woman stands tall, not arrogantly, but gracefully. She looks people in the eye, not with aggression, but with assurance. She smiles, not to please, but to connect. When you combine that inner composure with outer presence, people feel your energy before you even speak. So the next time you get ready, don't do it out of pressure or obligation. Do it as an act of self-love. When you take the time to look after yourself, you send your subconscious mind a message. I am worth the effort. And that message stays with you all day. It shapes your behavior, your communication, your decisions. You start carrying yourself like someone who matters. Because you do. Confidence is built through consistent acts of self-respect. And the way you present yourself is one of those acts. It's not vanity, it's self-awareness. It's recognizing that the way you show up to life, in your energy, in your words, in your appearance, influences not just how others see you, but how you see yourself. So when you walk out of your house tomorrow morning, dress with intention. Choose something that makes you feel capable and calm. Stand tall, smile at yourself in the mirror, and remind yourself that confidence is not something you wear, it's something you embody. But the right presentation can help you remember who you are, because when you respect yourself enough to show up fully, inside and out, the world cannot help but notice your light. Many people believe that confidence comes from speaking perfectly, from having the right words, flawless grammar, a clear voice, and a polished presence. But that's not true. Confidence is not about perfection, it's about purpose. It's not about sounding impressive, it's about speaking with sincerity. When you speak from your heart, people listen, not because your words are perfect, but because they're real. You see, words have energy. The tone behind them, the intention within them, the emotion they carry, that's what truly reaches others. Some of the most powerful speakers in history weren't flawless communicators. They weren't the most articulate or the most polished. But they spoke with conviction, with passion, with truth. And that truth connected to the hearts of millions. That's what real confidence in communication looks like. The problem is, most people are so focused on how they sound that they forget why they're speaking. They rehearse every word, trying not to make a mistake, and in doing so, they lose authenticity. They try to sound confident, and that very effort makes them nervous. The truth is, confidence doesn't come from trying to impress people. It comes from caring about what you're saying and who you're saying it to. When your message matters to you, your voice naturally finds its power. Think of a time when you were passionately explaining something you cared about, maybe defending a friend, sharing an idea, or telling a story that touched your heart. In that moment, you weren't worried about being perfect. You weren't thinking about your posture or pronunciation. You were simply present, and people could feel your sincerity. That's the kind of communication that builds real connection and confidence. When you speak with purpose, mistakes don't matter as much. You may stumble, pause, or forget a line, but people will still listen if they feel your intention. The heart behind your words is far more important than the polish on your speech. A genuine thank you will always touch hearts more deeply than a rehearsed performance. A sincere I believe in you has more power than a perfectly structured sentence. Perfection is intimidating, but authenticity is relatable. When you speak with vulnerability and truth, people feel safe around you. They see themselves in your words. That's why, as you build confidence, focus less on sounding confident and more on being real. Speak as if you're having a conversation, not delivering a lecture. When you speak to connect, not to impress, the fear of judgment fades away. Many people fear public speaking because they think everyone is watching them closely, waiting for them to make a mistake. But the truth is, the audience isn't your enemy. They're not sitting there with a checklist to judge your flaws. Most of them want you to succeed. They want to be inspired. They want to relate. Once you realize that people are not against you, but with you, your fear begins to dissolve. You stop performing and you start sharing. When you speak, imagine you're having a heartfelt conversation with a friend. Use pauses, use emotion, use silence if needed. Don't rush your words. Confidence doesn't shout, it speaks calmly, with assurance. Sometimes, the most powerful moments in a speech come not from words, but from pauses, from the silence that allows your message to sink in. Great communicators understand that it's not the speed or quantity of words that matter, but their clarity and honesty. And remember, your voice matters even if it shakes. A trembling voice filled with truth is far more powerful than a loud voice filled with emptiness. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's speaking despite it. Every time you express yourself, you strengthen your voice. You teach your mind that you deserve to be heard. Confidence also grows through practice. The more you express yourself, the more natural it becomes. Start small. Share your opinions in a group. Ask a question in a meeting. Record yourself speaking about something meaningful. At first, it may feel uncomfortable, but every attempt builds familiarity, and familiarity breeds comfort. Over time, your words will begin to flow with ease because your fear will no longer be in control. Speaking with purpose also means listening deeply. True communication is a two-way flow, not just expressing your thoughts, but understanding others. When you listen to people with empathy and respond with sincerity, you naturally become a more confident communicator. You no longer worry about what to say next because your attention is on understanding, not performing. Listening gives your words depth, and depth gives your presence power. There's something magical about people who speak from the heart. They draw others in. You can feel their conviction, their peace, their authenticity. They don't speak to dominate, they speak to inspire. They don't talk over others, they talk with others. Confidence in speech is not about volume or dominance. It's about calmness, clarity, and compassion. Let's take an example. Imagine two people delivering the same message. One speaks loudly, perfectly, with no errors, but you can sense it's rehearsed. The other speaks slowly, with pauses, a few mistakes, but you can feel the emotion, the honesty, the life behind their words. Which one touches your heart more? Always the second. Because connection always beats perfection. As women, especially in today's world, many feel the pressure to speak perfectly, to sound strong but not harsh, confident but not arrogant, professional but not distant. But true confidence doesn't require fitting into those molds. It comes from embracing your natural voice, your rhythm, your truth. The way you speak is your fingerprint, unique and irreplaceable. Don't try to sound like someone else. The world needs to hear your authentic tone, not a rehearsed version of someone else's. Every time you speak your truth, you build inner strength. You show yourself that your voice has value. So, don't silence yourself because you're afraid of making a mistake. Don't hold back because someone might not agree. Speak because your thoughts matter. Speak because your perspective can help someone else. Speak because your voice has the power to heal, inspire, and guide. When you speak with purpose, you give meaning to your words. You connect hearts, not just minds. People may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel. So, let your speech come from a place of sincerity, gratitude, and faith. And remember, confidence doesn't mean speaking perfectly. It means speaking honestly, even when your voice trembles. It's not about delivering a flawless speech. It's about delivering your truth. Because at the end of the day, confidence isn't found in fancy vocabulary or perfect grammar. It's found in presence. It's found in authenticity. It's found in that calm moment when you take a deep breath, look your audience in the eye, and say, "This is me, and this is my truth." That's when people truly listen. That's when confidence truly speaks.